What's going on, everybody? It's the Breakevens. My name is Corey, and as always, with me is Jack.
Hello.
All right, so just quickly, um, if you haven't heard or seen of us before, go check us out on Twitter. We're there at Breakevens Pod. You will find everything there, or on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. Search the Breakevens, you'll find us there. A big thank you to all of our new followers on Twitter and all of our new subscribers on YouTube. Thank you all um, for joining us this season, and hopefully you like the content out there. We've had a few comments on YouTube as well, which we reply to everyone as much as we can. So thank you to everyone there. Speaking of Jack, your team reveal is close to 200 views. Absolutely smashed it out the park. So you must have done some good shit there.
I must have done something right.
Yeah. Um, all right. So this is our welcome back sort of episode to the Supercoach season. Even though Supercoach isn't officially released yet, but what we'll go through today is a few rule changes that have happened in the Supercoach, our goals for the Supercoach season, and what to expect to go forwards or going forward. Um, so, just quickly, the rules we had last season, the new rules from last season, they're all back. So, your DPP every 6 rounds is back. Your trade assist, I don't know if anyone used it. Also, what else did they have last season? Extra 5 trades, the trade boost, they're all back. So they've decided to keep them, which I think is the right thing to do. But they've added, well, Supercoach have added one um, I guess change, and that uh, is the buys, which Jack will take you through a bit later. And the other one is the AFL with the new bench rules. So I'll quickly go through this bench rule, Jack, and then um, wait, was I doing the
Yeah, I've
bench
got the
rule?
buys.
Yeah, cool. So the bench rule is you have 5 people on the bench. Um, So basically, it's the same sub system. You've got 4 players and the sub. The only difference from last season is it's not a medical sub. So the person can come on at any time. There doesn't have to be an injury. It's just this player's on, this player's off, and that's done. So basically, that's going to impact some rookies and some rucks, unfortunately. And what I'm saying on that is rookies, they're brand new, especially the first years. They're going to be susceptible to the sub just because coaches might want to ease them in to get into games, into the AFL system. And this is a way just to give them a little bit of AFL footy experience before they unload them completely. But on the other side, if they do start, they might want to conserve them, so they might be subbed off around that 3/4 time mark, which is when I think most subs will be made if there isn't any injuries, that is. So rookies could take a big hit, and I think that's why most people structures they're looking at those second year players or even third year players that haven't really gotten the chance to play, but are looking best 22 at the moment. And the other one is the rucks. Most teams are looking to opt for a two ruck sort of game plan, which means if it's a close one or they're in a position that they think they can win the game, the second ruck subbed off, bring on some fresh legs, some pace. So that's what I think is going to happen with the bench rule. Um, Jack, can you talk us through the buy structure?
So the buys are going through 4 rounds, round 12 ending at round 15. It's a strange one because the first buy you got 4 teams that got the buy, which are St Kilda, Sydney, Brisbane, and Freo in
Yep,
round 12. Round 13 is a very strange one. You got 2 teams, Gold Coast and Geelong, and this is could be a very good thing for us as we know Gold Coast and Geelong are the only 2 teams with the bye, so we can stack some extra Gold Coast and Geelong picks into our teams early on, knowing through the hard buys we're going to be better off with more players playing with Gold Coast and Geelong. Um, Round 14 is one of the tough ones with 6 teams, and a part of those is Adelaide, West Coast, the Collywobbles, Essendon, Hawthorn, and Melbourne.
bastard.
So that's probably a really bad one with Adelaide and the Eagles. You got rookies coming in from um, the Pies, Bombers, D's. You got primos, um,
You've been playing
and
too much
Hawthorn.
FIFA, mate.
You've got a mixture of young talent coming in and young talent taking the next step. So it's a real tough one. The round 14 bye that one is,
Yep,
and lastly the round 15 bye. It's another 6 teamer, and it's also another difficult one because you got North Melbourne, lots of young talent coming through, and young players taking the next step. Then you've got Carlton, the Bulldogs, Port Adelaide, and Richmond, where you've got primos galore between the four of them.
that's got to be a
Um,
try.
and then there's also the Giants there, which make the 16, but there's not really much to talk about with the Giants. They're just the orange team. So, you don't need to worry about that. I don't think anyone will have many Giants players in their
Yeah,
team.
don't worry about the orange team. Um, so Jack, I know it's early days. Are you looking to target those Geelong Gold Coast players, or you just looking for players you're confident in?
Well, it's a little bit of both. Like, there's names floating around like Asava Radaglia, for example, with this
Yep,
the new sub rule that you're talking about. He could very well be the 23rd man, I believe it is.
yep,
The 23rd man. So people are jumping on him at 166k, but we know Geelong were desperate to keep him, but he's more been a filler for when Stanley goes down.
yep,
But then even this year, you saw Blitzars took that role, so it'll be interesting. Maybe he's someone who starts like Chris Scott strategy to sub him off at around halftime, 3 quarters, depending on how well he's playing, and go small ball like that Geelong do like to play a bit of,
yep,
especially in the midfield with Blitzars going in the ruck. Um, apart from that, apart from Tom Stewart, I'm not real too sure on many primo Geelong players we can target to have in our teams because Geelong's like a Richmond, for example. They play like their Supercoach scores one week. It could be Tom Hawkins scores 120. The next week he scores 30, and Jeremy Cameron scores 120, and
yep,
vice versa. We just don't. Same with the midfielders. We saw last year Cam Guthrie get low hundreds, and Dangerfield get 50, 60s, and then the next week Dangerfield get low hundreds and Guthrie get 50, 60s. So it's very hard with Geelong. Obviously, they've got the lower price players with Radigalea and there's Bose as well. It's just hard with them to, Bose injuries. He gets injured like every season, so it's like, do you want to risk it at 277k? And Radigalea, does he get in even with the 23rd man rule?
yep. Yeah, it's good you bring up Radigalea because it is a tough one. I have heard Chris Scott does back him to play that pinch hit ruck role, but then you look, are they really going to go 3 tools with Hawkins, Cameron, and Radigalea? So I think he's banking on a few injuries there, unfortunately, or as you said, he'll come on as the sub. But me personally, um, I'm not one that super looks forward to the buys, but I do have that second buy in mind. But I'm not going out of the way to pick different players. I'm backing the players
Most
in.
players for both teams, it's you're taking a risk. Like Gold Coast, you got Took Miller, who's you could solidify in, but you got Witts, who was pretty good most of last season, but was inconsistent at times, and then you got Noah Anderson, who was bright, but he was also that inconsistent. Got the average just over 100 for the season, but you're really hoping he takes the next step by selecting him just for a buy round.
Yeah,
So both teams, I think the AFL's done us dirty, super coach wise, because there's not many players to pick from,
yeah,
but they're obviously not giving a shit about super coach. They're just doing what's best for business, and
yeah.
they've come up with that, not worrying about Supercoach, which it just hurts us a little.
Yeah, because like, could you imagine? Let's take Geelong for instance. Apart from Stewart, as you said, you're not really going to pick anyone else, are you? So, or well, maybe Bose, but yeah, you're not really going to pick anyone. If you swap them with, let's say, the Bulldogs or the Lions, where you've got the likes of McRae, English, Bont, and then you have Neil and Dunkley, you put those guys into that round, and that those later buy rounds become a lot easier because you're only looking at maybe a Took and a Stewart, so that's two people out, and then that means you could have loaded early and gotten Bont, McRae, and English in your starting lineup. So it's going to be very interesting to see how people go. But those are really the only two role changes. So we're just going to move on. This is going to be a nice, quick podcast, by the way. Just going through what to expect for the season and a few other things. So we'll move on to our goals for the season. Um, as a collective, as a podcast, we're probably looking at 450 to 500 followers. I think would be great for us. We're close to 300. I think we're on. I think it's 280 odds. So if you don't know where we are, at Breakevens Pod on Twitter. I think if we get close to that 500, let's make 500 the base. If we hit that 500, we'll be very happy. And then I think subscribers. Let's try and get 50 subscribers by the end of the season. We're at 15 at the moment. We've had a few new ones come in, so those are really our goals for the season. So 500 followers and 50 subscribers on YouTube. Um, and I think if we achieve that, we'll be a lot more consistent viewing. But talking Supercoach wise, Jack, what are your goals for this season in Supercoach?
Now, the first one is a very strange one. You're probably not going to, you probably, if you were to think what I would say, you probably wouldn't think this was one.
Okay.
And it's take more risks.
Ooh, I like that.
So last season, I took a couple, one didn't work out, a couple did. I started Will Power, which didn't work out, and then he done fucked himself. But I had Wits. I took the risk with him at 200, 300k, and he became a mainstay. Trelaw, I took a risk with him in the forward line. He did well. Um, so like taking more risks. Like you would have seen my team. I had Meek and Redmond in. They're two, and Newcomb, Luke Davies, Uniac. They're risky picks that can do very well. Like they've proven they can do well, but it's more they need to take the next step.
Yeah. So
Um,
so you mean calculated risk, not just
well,
oh
yes,
yeah,
yes.
I like this Donny because he played one decent game in 4 years. Calculated
Yeah,
risk,
no. Samson Ryan scored -1. He's in. He's captain round
captain.
one. No, Aiden Bonner averaged, I think it was 25, 30 to 36 last season.
Yep.
In. Um, and with that, like braver calls, like before last season, I called two Smokies that ended up being in almost everyone's team in Tim English and Luke Parker. I
Yep.
called them early, so I'm currently looking for players. Could be Price, it could be DPP. So, like some players that have proven to be well, but may their price may be short, a bit short for some reason, or they might have had a little form slump, like my outrageous Jeremy Howe call last year.
Uh,
I'm backing him in this year.
I hope not.
Um, but yeah, so that's like the first one. Be more risky, but be calculated. Like last year, like, and it's more sensible as well. End of last year, I had one or two trades left, and I decided to just chuck in Liam Baker because he's a Richmond boy. That's
Yeah.
not a calculated risk, and it don't work out. If I look at someone who, I'm sure there were players around his price that were more consistent, could have gone them instead of just a YOLO. I feel like that can help me a bit more.
Yep.
But yeah, I like to live on the risky side, so take more calculated risks is number one.
Yep. Yep. Do you have a place where you'd like to finish?
Last year I said 10K and I was in the top 6K, I think it was, coming into the buys, and then the buys destroyed me and I ended 21,000 or something like that.
We
So I'm
both had a rough second half to the year with
yeah, so I'm
injuries.
putting my aim at 10K again. Um, Obviously, like I said last year, towards the end, I took some YOLO risks, and it obviously screwed me up a bit more. Um, it could also be a smart decision towards the end of next year, like this season. If I see I'm around there, instead of just going, let's take this massive risk, go a more sensible approach as well.
Yep.
Um, just to try and get my rating as high as possible. But 10K I'm aiming for.
Yep. Nice. Nice. Yeah. Um, I've got two goals as well, and basically similar. But I want to back myself in more this season. Um, there was a few players I felt good about it. I wanted to select, but then we're always in the community. We're always listening to other people's opinions and stuff. And not everyone's opinions are the same, but they make really good points on their thoughts, and it makes me think, oh, maybe I shouldn't select this guy, or maybe I should. The prime example last year, I chose Mitch McGovern over Will Brody, um, but basically people were unsure about Brody's role. Was he best 22? McGovern had that new halfback role. I had Brody in, and I think 3 hours before the lockout of round one, I changed it. So I need to back myself in. Still listen to people and their opinions, but if I know in my gut it doesn't seem right and someone else does, I need to take that. Um,
Risk
yeah, just
by backing yourself in.
take that risk. And look, if it doesn't work out, I've backed myself in. I'll cop it on the chin. That happens.
It's you have a gut
You
feel
can't win
like
them all.
last year we had the gut feeling on Caleb Sarong. We backed him in our combined team and it didn't pay off. But if that paid off, we would have been there laughing like you idiots, get around Caleb Sarong. You know what I mean? It's
Jack,
just
we do not talk about Voldemort, okay?
like just as an example, if that went well, you know what I mean? We backed Caleb Sarong in because we had a thought about him. That one didn't work out. That's a risk.
Yeah,
Um, but if it worked out, we would have been one of a very few teams that had Sarong in, and we would have been laughing.
we would have won the whole competition. I'm pretty sure Jack's saying so. Yeah. And my second
Every
goal,
year.
my second goal is as I said, we didn't have a good back half the last season. Um, and I finished top 15K, which was a 12K drop from 2 years ago. Um, if you don't know, I finished top 3K 2 seasons ago. Um, so I think top 5K this year. And yes, that's a 10K jump, but I'm going to back myself in. I've always,
Starting already. Your first goal's looking good.
I've I've always been someone to usually back myself in, but when it comes to Supercoach, I try and get as much info in, and that changed my mind. But top 5K, you will see the goals top 5K guaranteed. So, all right, that's our goals for the season. So we're going to go through what to expect from us this preseason mainly. Um, and then I'll just do a quick summary of what we do when the season actually starts. So, um, starting next week, we have our first team previews where we go through four four or five teams each week. We give you our thoughts on those teams, on players. So that's going to be the next 4 weeks. That's our main big bulk of content. So make sure you subscribe on YouTube and you follow us on Twitter because we've got everything on there. After that, we've got our year predictions, Jack. So what we do is we just go through Premiership, runner up, Norman Smith, Brownlow, Rising Star, and our surprise breakout player. It's just a bit of fun. It's not really super coach related, but obviously, if
The
you're looking at,
breakout player is, but
yeah, so if you're looking at the Brownlow, Rising Star, and breakout, yes, that is super coach related because those are usually the ones that score the highest or has the potential to. And then after that, we've got our rookie watch. So we're just going to splurge about 40 minutes of just rookies, why we should select them, why we shouldn't. And then we've got our top 10 and top fives, depending on the line of defense mid, ruck, and forwards. That's 2 weeks of that. And then the final one is the round one preview and our team reveals. That's the Wednesday just before round one. We're going to put out 3 videos, one of a podcast, 2 team reveals. And then that's our preseason. So that's 10 weeks of content right there in preseason, which you love to see. Then after that, we just review each round, how we go. Um, I guess our thoughts on the big topics like, oh, this person has this new role. Is he um, a decent selection? Should we select him and stuff like that? So um, that's all that done. We also are going to have a segment, Jack. You'll be pretty happy about this. It is the Aiden Bonner Club.
come
Um,
on.
so we haven't super thought about the nitty gritty, but basically it's players who aren't a sub. So they have to start or be subbed on super early. They they start the game, and I'm thinking that they finish below 10 points, Jack.
Yeah, it'd be around there.
All right, they will.
If they get 5 to the negatives, it's bonus points.
Yep. So um, we're going to do a whole thing on Twitter, the Aiden Bonner Club, because last season we saw 3 or 4 negative scores from him and a lot of under 10 scores. So
He's become a cult hero, really.
he's basically a cold hero. So make sure you follow us for that content. Jack's got it around it. He's the one that pushed it. So we'll figure out maybe a points system.
And as an
Um,
MVP at the end of the year.
and there
The
will be
Aiden Bonner MVP winner.
there will be MVP at the end of the year. So yeah, that's basically it. that's what we're doing for the season. That's the different rule changes and what we're trying to strive for. This is our second year of doing this, so um, you can probably already tell we're a bit more confident on the screen, and you can see that in our team reveals, um, which again are on our YouTube channel. Jack's almost at 200, so make sure you give it a like and a watch because there's a few different picks in there, which I like. So all right, that's going to do us for this podcast. Again, a nice quick one. So thank you all for listening or watching. If that's on Apple Podcasts or on YouTube, you can find us on Twitter at Breakevens Pod or on Apple Podcasts and YouTube, the Breakevens. Make sure you follow us on those. All right, Jack, do you have anything else to add quickly before I just say goodbye to the
I do
folks?
not.
All right, no worries. So thank you all again for watching and listening. We are the Break Evens. I'm Corey. That's Jack. And until next time, it's bye for now.
See ya.